Tori. So today I'm showing you how I clean my cloth pads. Now I did do a video a couple of months ago on how to do this, but I have changed it since then. I changed it about 2 cycles ago, just after I got a stain on one of my minky pads, which I don't know how I managed to do that, but still. And I changed it very, very slightly. So I've done it about 7 times with this method and I've never got a single stain. So I'll be very surprised if you get it. It's also what I call my kind of lazy method when I can't bother to do anything. So yeah, I hope it works for you. Now, I should just mention in the video I'm going to show you, I am not cleaning my pads. They're not dirty, but I got some sent to me from a friend, so I'm just pre-treating them as well, you know, like pre-washing them because they were used by her. So that is what you're going to see in the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so here are just 5 pads I have. These 3 here need to be pre-washed because I think, well, they're new to me, but they were worn by someone else, so I want to wash them obviously and get them clean. And then these 2 I haven't worn for a while, and this fabric, the flannel on these is horrible, and I want to try and get them a bit softer. So as I said before, this method I have never got any stains with. I've washed them about 7 times using this method, and I use more than 5 usually. I have about 10 to 15 pads at once. So I'm just going to walk you through the whole process of how I do it with my bucket. So the first thing I'm going to show you is my actual cleaning product. So that's my wet bag I use. But these are my 2 main cleaning products up here in my bedroom. So my Echo Stain Remover, which I very, very rarely use. In fact, I haven't used it for ages now because I haven't had a stain. And then this is my Vanish Oxy Action. This is the extra hygiene one. I really want to switch to the Femrock version. However, I have just bought, as you can see, a massive one of the Vanish Sensitive before I found out about that. So I'm going to have to use all these up. And this is brand new. I haven't even opened this yet. So I'm going to have to wait now for a while until I finish these up. But yeah, so I'm going to show you how to do it. So first thing is I fill this bucket of water, which I will just do now. Okay, so this is now about a quarter full of cold water in my bucket. It's actually a nappy pail, it has a lid, but I don't use it and you don't want to use it. I'll explain that in a second. But this is full of cold water. There's nothing in it so far, it's just cold water. If I had more pads, I'd fill it up to about halfway, maybe even 3/4 of the way full. But usually this will be fine for, well, this will definitely be fine for these 5 pads, and they're not bloody either. So the next thing I do is I get my Vanish. I'm going to have to use my feet to unscrew this. Sorry. I wish this camera would focus. There we are. And then here's my little scoop. Now I don't take much at all with this. In fact, it's really a little much. If you can see. But it's only a tiny bit in there. Then that just goes in the water like that. And then we're done with this. And then if these were, you know, folded up with the, hang on, oh, I wish I'd unclipped all these pads first of all. There we go. If these were folded up in the soiled pad fold like this and, you know, snapped together, then all I do is I unsnap them, and whenever they're dirty I always like to place them with that side down, fleece side up. This one doesn't have fleece, but most pads are backed in fleece or PUL. So always the pattern down, and that happens with all of them. So I'm just going to put them in. Okay, so the pads are all in now, and as you can see, they're not all wet. I've just dropped them in, I haven't pushed them in or anything. Now, I always like to just do a little bit of a shimmy with them like this. That's just to get the Vanish working. It's an oxy cleaning, kind of oxy action thing. So I like to do that just to get them moving around a bit. Now you don't have to do anything now, but sometimes I just like to basically take my finger. If there's a lot in here, they sometimes be quite piled high on the water, quite far away from the water. So I like to just take my finger and poke straight in the centre like that and hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see I'm not scrunching like that, and that just makes sure they get down there, and they'll definitely soak through then, because the backing, the fleece tends to be water resistant, so it sometimes just stays floating and keeps them above the waterline. But they're all in there. Now I'm going to leave that overnight. That is all I've done. You know, I just leave it like that. You really don't have to do much at all. And I have a lid here Now all I do with this, and this bit is really crucial, is I place it like this. I do not place it all the way on. The reason for this is that this is an oxy-action thing, so it needs the actual oxygen to work. If you put a lid on fully, there's no oxygen circulating around here, you'll get a musky smell and it's not pleasant. The cloth pads won't smell, and if you leave this off, you know, I usually leave it quite wide gap on it, and the cleaners just like to come in and push it on. It's really annoying. But I'll leave a gap on it like that, and then that'll be fine. So I'm going to leave this now overnight and I'll come back to you in the morning. Okay, so it's now the morning and I can assure you all of these have been properly soaked, and I'm now going to show you what I do next. So the next thing I do is I pick up the bucket, and let me just open my bedroom door. Pick up the bucket. I always flush the loo just beforehand because I find it makes it easier now. I'm going to have to hold you with my other hand because I can't do this with my left hand. Then I would just literally pour all the water. Now, if this was actually my period, this water would be slightly red because it's obviously the blood. And just continue to pour it all down the lid. I just let that drip a little bit. Okay, so once that's all dripped away, see you've just got all your pads in there with no water. Flush the loo again, and then I'm going to take these downstairs. So next I put them in the washing machine, and I use these two laundry detergents. So first of all, I obviously open the washing machine up and I'll put the pads inside. Now if you're squeamish, you can actually use a mesh laundry bag. All you do is before you soak them in the water like I showed you earlier, you put them inside a mesh laundry bag in the bucket with the water. Then all you have to do now is lift the mesh bag out and place it in the washing machine with the entrance open. Then I put a laundry tablet from the Simply Pure that you can get at Sainsbury's, most supermarkets stock it, and I put that in the machine with the pads. Then I put in my Ekava non-bio laundry powder. Ekava is a nice company, they're a natural company, so I like using their detergents. So when I'm actually washing them in the washing machine, I don't really do anything particularly different with them, but it's good to bear in mind you might want to spin them again at the end. I'll explain that later on, but just bear that in mind. So I had some difficulty getting the Ekava out here one-handed, as you can see here, but whatever. And then after this, all I do is I set my temperature, and this machine is really weird. It says 40 but it actually means 29 daily, so just ignore the 40 on this. You can wash them up to 60 though, but I really wouldn't recommend going higher than 40. Next I choose between these buttons. I usually choose either super rinse or super wash, but most of the time I go for super wash, and then I start it. So that's all I do for this, and as I said at the end, I'll put them on for an extra spin to get the excess water out, and then I'll air dry them, and that's all I do. So thanks for watching, guys.